DJI Action 3 or the GoPro Hero 11? Take two. In full disclosure, DJI saw my original Hero 11 versus Action 3 comparison video and reached out and asked if they could sponsor a new comparison video. I said yes, so they sent me the Adventure Combo with the Action 3. But I also went out and purchased another Action 3 at Best Buy just to make sure that the issues that I had complained about in my original comparison video were fixed. Now, as with any camera equipment purchase, much of it is going to come down to your personal needs and what you are going to use it for. So I'll do my best to break down all the differences between these two cameras because there are a lot, and likely it will make one of them a better camera for you over the other. So we're going to jump into comparing footage. When it comes down to the footage, the GoPro Hero 11 shoots up to 5.3K up to 60 frames a second, 4K up to 120 frames a second, and Full HD or up to 2.7K in 240 frames a second, and it also takes 27 megapixel stills. The Action 3, on the other hand, will shoot 4K up to 120 frames a second, Full HD or 1080p up to 240 frames a second, and will take up to 12 megapixel stills. So straight out of camera, both of these are shooting in auto profiles across the board and in normal color profile. Now that's not the 10-bit color profile on the Action 3, we'll get into that in a minute, but this is what both cameras look like when they're in a normal color profile being shot at 4K 60 in auto modes. Obviously, there's some coloring differences between the two, and I gotta say, overall, I think I slightly prefer the Action 3 colors in general in normal color profile. I just feel like they're a little bit more natural looking and a little bit more true to what I was seeing in person there. But both of these cameras will also shoot in log, which is where 10-bit comes in the Action 3 since DJI released that firmware update, which does give it more dynamic range. The Action 3 actually does a really good job shooting in 10-bit D-Cine like here. You can color grade quite a bit. The GoPro is also being shot in their flat color profile, which is essentially their version of log. And both of these do color grade fairly well. I mean, they're still action cameras, but they do a pretty good job overall. Now, while the Action 3 may not have the same amount of resolution as far as shooting like up to 5.3K like the GoPro does, it does have a couple of other modes that are actually really nice. It has HDR mode, which gives you much more extended dynamic range and actually makes things look pretty good. Maybe a touch too vibrant, but they do look really good and it does give you a lot more dynamic range. And then they also have something called enhanced image quality, which is what you're seeing here, which the Action 3 basically analyzes all the information coming in and adjusts all of the camera settings based on what is coming in the moment in real time so that it gives you the absolute best image quality that it can. I found both of these modes to be pretty nice. I would have to say the enhanced image quality is a little bit more to my taste as far as looking natural and right, but the HDR quality is actually pretty good as well. Then we come to low light performance. Now, no small action camera is going to give you great low light performance. So here you can see a few different examples from ISO 100 all the way up to ISO 6400. And I'll let you decide which one wins. To me, they're both pretty much the same. There's definitely a little more noise in the Action 3 than the GoPro, but that looks like because the GoPro is handling some sort of noise reduction a little more, and to me the image looks like it gets a little more soft a little earlier on. But honestly, it's 6 1/2 dozen. Again, no action camera is going to give you amazing low light performance. I covered stabilization a lot and not much has changed. Both of these cameras will stabilize your footage really well, and kind of regardless of what you're doing, you get this almost bizarre gimbal-like effect out of each one of these cameras. But there's another way that the Action 3 will beat out the GoPro, and that's with the angle of view. You can get a much wider angle of view on the Action 3 than you can the GoPro. Now, the GoPro does beat out the Action 3 in the fact that you can rotate it 360 degrees and it will keep the horizon level, where the Action 3 is limited to what they say is 45 degrees, but I found it to be a little bit more than that on each side. Just kind of depends, or it seems to depend on the subject material you're filming. The other thing the Action 3 can do that the GoPro can't is zoom in digitally, and it actually keeps image quality pretty decently when you can zoom in up to 3 times. So it gives you a lot more field of view options on how you want to use this camera to compose your shot. In my testing of both of these cameras, the Action 3 has significantly better battery life, it has significantly better cold weather handling, and from what I've seen, I've been able to test it personally, it does significantly better at overheating on longer runtimes. So if you're planning on recording long sessions where you're gonna let the camera roll for quite a while, the Action 3 definitely wins. It also has much better battery life in cold weather, and I've tested that pretty extensively over the last few months here in Alaska. The batteries on this last quite a while. In the day that I went and shot both of these together, I think it was up for about 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, turning the cameras on and off, shooting various frame rates and stuff like that. And the GoPro lost about 30% battery, or 30%, it lost battery life about 30% faster than the Action 3 did. So while I went through about 1.5 batteries on the Action 3, I went through 2 full batteries and basically started into my third on the GoPro Hero 11 in order to keep up and do all of the shooting that I wanted to do. So if you're looking for long run times and in cold weather, or from what I've seen in hotter weather, the Action 3 definitely wins out. Whatever DJI has done with their thermal management, they've done a fantastic job at being able to keep this thing running much longer. And yes, I was using these Enduro batteries from GoPro, which are GoPro's cold weather batteries. And while they are significantly better than the blue batteries that GoPro used to sell, they come at an extra cost, and they still don't match up to the Action 3 runtime or performance in cold weather. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, then consider subscribing. I do lots of filmmaking equipment reviews here in Alaska, and I give you tips and tutorials on how to use them so you can tell better stories. Something that DJI has done that GoPro has not done that really makes the Action 3 a fantastic action camera is give you a lot of options for audio. Not only are there multiple mics on the camera, and you can select if you want to use just the front microphone. So if you're vlogging, holding the camera out like this, talking to it, then you're only getting audio from the front of the camera, not from the back. But you can also do it in stereo. You can also do all around. It just gives you a lot of options. Whereas the GoPro, you don't get the option. Now, it does have a microphone in front, and the camera is supposed to intelligently sort of select where the sound source is coming from, but you don't have any control over that. But a huge way the Action 3 really wins over the GoPro is the fact that you can use pretty much any sort of USB audio source, USB-C audio source in the camera. You open up the flap here, and if you have the DJI wireless mic, you can plug the wireless mic directly into the side of the camera. You have a really clean sounding wireless audio system from the Action 3. Which makes it great, especially if you operate in areas where there might be a lot of wind, or, you might want to get further away from the camera than just handheld like this. I've also tested it with this USB-C lapel mic from Sennheiser. It also works with that. And just for fun, I decided to try it with my Rode NTG, coming out of the USB-C port in the Rode NTG and plugging it into the Action 3. And it also worked with that. So if you want to get better, higher quality external audio sources, the Action 3 beats the GoPro by far. To get any external audio sources into the GoPro, you have to buy the $80, $79 Media Mod, which gives you a 3.5 millimeter input. That is a huge deal. The fact that you can plug a wireless mic system directly into this, or the Rode NTG directly into this, or a lapel directly into this, and you don't have to buy any extra mods, is a huge, huge advantage the Action 3 has over GoPro. Then we come to usability, and there is something that's pretty significant that I didn't touch on my initial review. Now, both of them have touchscreens that are fairly fast and fairly responsive. How you get around things is basically touching stuff. They both work well. They, respond well. And I do like that GoPro has these kind of quick selection buttons here where you can change your field of view and stuff like that. Basically built in right there, ready to go. You can turn hyper smooth on or off depending on what you want. You can do it there. You can go through these kind of quick program modes here, which is pretty nice. The Action 3 takes a slightly different approach, but also sort of a similar approach. You can change your frame rates right there, which I really like. You can swipe down to get into your menus. You can set up a bunch of modes for quick switching between stuff. And then you can just use the button on the side to quick switch between modes that you commonly use. So I just have video and photo set up right now. Makes it fairly fast and intuitive. And then of course you can get into your deeper menus. If you really want to go into like preferences, stuff like that, you get playback. All of that really easy. You can set up your stuff here. You can leave it in basically where it does everything automatically, or in Pro mode, which is where I shot everything in. But the other way the Action 3 has a big advantage over the GoPro is the front screen is also a touchscreen. So now only one touchscreen is active at a time. So now that I swiped up, just the front screen is active as a touchscreen, but same thing. You can change all of your settings right there. You can get into your preferences right there. I mean, it's just really handy. Now, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you're putting this on a helmet where you only really can see the front screen, or you're putting this on an FPV drone where the battery is up against the back screen and you can only see the front screen, it makes it really nice to be able to adjust settings from the front side of the camera rather than having to pull it off and set it up. So I'd say while the menus are different, set up differently, and both of them are very intuitive, I think DJI might win out just because of this front touchscreen that they've included in the Action 3. It's much more useful than I originally thought it would be. But another way to test and tell is how fast each one of them turn on. So here you can see when they're both completely off, if I just push the record button, they should turn on and start recording. And the Action 3 beats out the GoPro by a full second, maybe a second and a half. And again, if I do it again, it's the same thing. And I've tested this a lot of times where, and every single time, the Action 3 is quite a bit faster than the GoPro Hero 11. Another thing I like about the Action is when you turn this on and you hit the button to turn it off, if you tap the screen right there, it will stay on. Now, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but the amount of times that I've started recording with the GoPro and realized that a setting is wrong or I want to change something about it, I push stop recording, it powers off. I then have to power the camera back on in order to get into the settings and be able to change stuff. So that's a lot of extra time. It doesn't seem like that big a deal, but again, it's just extra time. So the Action 3 really does win out in that. Those couple little things that they added in there are really nice. And in that vein of usability, the Action 3 is a bit smaller than the GoPro Hero 11, both top to bottom, and then front to back. They're just a little bit different there, a little bit smaller. While the GoPro has this twist on front here, kind of twist on lock front for ND filters, the Action 3 basically it screws on and off. So I feel like that's pretty good. Both of them are waterproof to a limit without an extra cage. There's another way that I've been sort of on and off about the magnetic mounts that the Action 3 uses. I wasn't a huge fan of them. Like, I liked it, but it wasn't my favorite because I don't feel like it's as secure as the fingers that GoPro has on the bottom. But in a recent ice climbing trip with ice climbers, switching this camera between my FPV drone, a helmet mount, and a selfie stick, having this sort of mount was super invaluable because it made it so that I could switch cameras between different mounts super fast and super easy because it's just like that. So I had one of these on my FPV drone, I had the one on the selfie stick, and then I had one on the helmet camera or the helmet mount. And I could swap this within seconds and be ready to go. That makes a huge difference. Now, the fingers are the most secure. So if you're gonna strap this to the outside of a car going 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, or put it on the outside of an airplane or a helicopter like I've done before with the GoPro, you're gonna want a cage that has fingers that is very secure. I wouldn't trust the magnets to do that. That being said, they're pretty strong, and I have flown this on my FPV drone using nothing but the magnetic mount or the magnetic clip attachment, and it's held on and been fine. And then we come down to price, and that is a huge determining factor for most people. The Action 3 comes in at a base of $330, where the GoPro comes in at $500, unless you do the GoPro subscription plan, or you might find it on sale. Prices are always fluctuating and stuff like that, so you might maybe $450, $440, something like that. But there's another way that the Action 3 definitely wins, being that it's cheaper and it has fantastic performance built in. If you get the Adventure combo for $430, not only do you get the Action 3, the selfie stick, and a couple of magnetic mounts, and the cage that comes with it, but you also get this battery charging case, which you get 2-3 batteries with the combo anyway. But the battery charging case basically lets you know when it's closed, if they're fully charged or depleted. So as you're going through your day and you're changing batteries, You don't have to guess about which battery is fully charged and which one is not. And then of course you can charge this via USB-C. Now to get that same level of performance with GoPro, you get the GoPro Hero 11 with the battery, and then you buy 2 more batteries with a charging case, which I wouldn't buy anything other than these Enduro batteries after using them. And that's gonna run you another, what, $50 or $60? But then again, we also come back to the fact that if you wanna plug external audio into one of these, you're gonna have to spend an additional $80 for the GoPro, or with the Action 3, you basically have it built right in via the USB-C. So which one of these is gonna be right for you? Like I said earlier, is gonna be massively dependent on what you're gonna use it for, if you're gonna plug accessories into it, what your budget is, and what your needs are. For me, the Action 3 has been an incredibly well-performing camera in extremely harsh environments, and for the price, I don't really think you can beat it. It's fantastic. Now, if you need the utmost highest resolution, then the GoPro Hero 11 probably is going to be the direction you're going to go, but that's going to come at a cost. Until then, you're going to want to watch this video, see how other action cameras compare and stack up. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers.